I am Doomsvince, and this is day 89 of Spawn Year.
Dear reader, I'd like to relay to you, to the best of my ability with pen and paper, what Spawn Year is truly like. Each day, you feel like your real life is slipping, oozing farther and farther through your fingertips. The days become longer, not shorter, as you find it more and more impossible not to keep track of the days. You become obsessed with numbers. Only 276 reviews left to go. Might as well be 1,000. You start to forget what your life was before. Reading infuriating comic books, writing in a notebook, it all becomes sickeningly routine. You struggle to go on hating this new existence, reminding yourself that there must be life after Spawn Year. You fear that if you become comfortable, that if after a few decent issues you drop your guard and gasp, begin to like this place, it will never be over. The one thing you never become accustomed to, the only thing that is always there, even when you've finished another long, painstaking analysis, is Doomsvince. After 88 days, I'm still not used to those penetrating, grapefruit-sized eyes watching me every second of every day. He may not always show himself, but I know he's here. A few days ago, I deluded myself. I allowed myself to think that because I hadn't seen him much lately, Doomsvince was getting careless. Now I know he is constantly vigilant. Sometimes I sense he himself is as repelled by some of the subjects he assigns for review as I am, and no doubt that's why he assigns them, but that hasn't dulled his insidiousness. I'm always waiting for his next play. His next long-considered, tediously concocted stage of his multi-layered master plan. The less I see of Doomsvince, the more I see of Doomsvince. I see his face when I'm certain he isn't really there. I see him every time I close my eyes. I fear that when I hopefully return to my wife and son in 276 days, it won't end there. I'll see Doomsvince in my sleep, on my computer screen, in my car. Curse of the Spawn number 9 is Angela's first return appearance since she pointlessly renounced her angelhood and went rogue as a private hunter for hire at the end of the Angela mini. Her very first appearance was in Spawn number 9. I wonder if including her in the 9th issue of this series was intentional. I can't always relate to Angela, but I certainly feel her pain here, as she too is haunted by a face from her past. An old, bald man with a cold death stare who watches her without empathy in her intense agony. I think it's the glasses that really make this guy's ominous presence. Lucky for me, Doomsvince only wears glasses when he's reading. The issue is mostly setting a stage, and it's fairly simple. Angela is hired to hunt down a demonic creature called the Argus, which kind of looks like Alien birthed the Hydra, and has two things we know Alan McElroy loves from the Daniel Lanso arc: cybernetics and electro whips. I guess in the mid-90s, electro whip is already a common term, but we don't get spinners until the apocalypse. The Argus is a shapeshifter that collects souls and tries to collect Angela. We don't realize why until we get to the end. At first, she's holding her own, because all the Argus's power is no match for her blind ferocity. Duly noted. In my struggle against Doomsvince, I shall endeavor to think less and keep hoarding up a whole lot of fierceness, because that's worked out so well for Spawn. Angela actually sees this assignment as beneath her, and she really misses the challenge of killing Hellspawns. Her overconfidence gets the better of her when she is distracted by the only thing that really mortifies her, that red-eyed high school principal, Spectre of Death, who comes out of nowhere. While we wonder where Angela has seen this face before, we're given short biographies of several humans, all of whom had hard, unfair lives and saw the same face at their deaths. A clue of their connection to Angela is that the first of these is a woman in the Saharan savannah 100,000 years ago, which is Angela's precise age. She sacrifices herself to a leopard so her child might survive, sees the principle of death, and then something that looks like how angels are typically depicted, not a scantily clad huntress. The others are the same: an Egyptian slave worked to death, a freed slave just after the Civil War, a child killed by the KKK, a Jewish woman killed at Auschwitz during World War II, and finally, an elderly woman who was taken advantage of her whole life by her family and painfully waited to die in a hospital bed for 8 years. She dies the day after tomorrow. The souls of all 5 women go to heaven, merge, and become Angela. Yeah, I didn't see that coming. This, of course, raises a bazillion questions. Namely, are all the angels created this way? And doesn't this mean the future is pretty well set in stone if God, assuming it is God who does this, we're not told, can reach into the future, graft some souls together, make an angel, and send her back 100,000 years? I'm sure just like with Bulgy being somewhere in time, the idea is that heaven is outside of linear time, but that's hard to swallow since all these cosmic entities tend to observe time the same way we do. Still, it might end up being a fascinating origin, depending on where McElroy is going with it and who Principal Grim Reaper turns out to be. We do get a name for him at the end, Dorges, and he watches as the Argus seems to have turned into an enormous spider and has Angela in its web. I don't know yet and don't have enough information to speculate on what any of this really means, but I'm definitely interested to find out. And it seems Doomsvince is quite intrigued as well. Signed, Captain Logan.